Deixa eu ver se eu tô online. Sempre é bom dar aquela conferida, né? Cadê? Será que a capa tá certa? Seria bom botar a data, né? Do lado do título. 18/4. Deixa eu só ver se eu tô ao vivo. Sim, estamos ao vivo. Nice. Deixa eu postar aqui no Discord. E abrir o chat aqui. Gente, por que hoje tá sendo o café com teu teacher nível B2, já que é sexta-feira? A ideia era que segunda-feira fosse A1, terça A2 e assim por diante. Só que ontem eu tava muito gripado e já tive que fazer um esforço tremendo para dar todas as aulas. Ainda bem que alguns alunos faltaram ontem, inclusive. Paulo faltou, quem mais? Bruno faltou. Então eu não precisei de dar todas as aulas, mas tive que dar várias aulas ainda. E a garganta doendo bastante, muito entupido. Toda hora eu tinha que mutar o microfone para fungar, né? Ou pra tossir, ou pra espirrar. Espirrar não, mais tossir mesmo. A garganta tá pegando bastante. Então foi bem difícil ontem, por isso que eu tive que poupar minha voz e não fazer o episódio de ontem. Então hoje, sexta-feira, eu não vou fazer uma aula do C1, mas sim uma aula do B2. O tópico C1 seria alguma coisa relacionada às tarifas do Trump dos Estados Unidos com a China, né? Que já é um tópico mais difícil e tal. E hoje, pro B2, vai ser algo diferente. Eu diria que não vai ser tão difícil assim em questão de gramática, né? O que eu preparei aqui foi uma review negativa, uma avaliação negativa de uma série. Uma aula que eu dou é a construção de reviews, né? Os alunos escrevem reviews como uma forma de praticar o seu writing, aprender novas palavras também, né? Tem a parte do reading, que a gente lê reviews sobre séries e filmes, e eles acabam aprendendo muitas palavras. A gente analisa um pouco. Vai ser mais ou menos o que eu vou fazer aqui, só que em vez de pegar uma avaliação positiva, uma negativa e uma mediana, eu vou pegar só a negativa, que foi uma que eu utilizei, inclusive, que na verdade eu nem escolho essas reviews, né? Os alunos vão passando lá e eles que escolhem aleatoriamente. Aí essa aqui me chamou a atenção, é uma review negativa, já vou colocar na tela, sobre a série Friends. E me chamou a atenção pelo fato do vocabulário ser um pouco mais complicado, tá? É um vocabulário com palavras que os alunos tiveram muitas dificuldades, alunos de nível B2, inclusive, por isso que eu tô trazendo ela aqui. Em questão de gramática, ela é bem tranquilinha. Eles não tiveram problemas, realmente é muito simples a questão de gramática. Então eu vou pontuar principalmente vocabulário nessa aula de hoje, tá bom? Lembrando que a partir de quarta-feira, ou seja, quarta, quinta e sexta, durante a aula eu não falo mais português. Então, a partir do nível B1, das aulas de nível B1, é tudo inglês, tá? Tem que ser assim. Aí segunda-feira, segunda e terça, a gente mantém ali, eu explico algumas coisas em português, claro, focando na língua alvo, mas de quarta em diante é o tempo todo em inglês. Vamos lá. Slide na tela. Deixa eu colocar aqui. Deixa eu apresentar primeiro, né? Por que não tá aparecendo, velho? Ah, acho que tem que estar, peraí. Acho que tem que estar nessa tela aqui, ó. Calma. Agora. Deixa eu diminuir minha câmera aqui, pra vocês conseguirem ver tudinho. Pronto. Ó, a tosse voltando. Vamos lá. So this is the this is the review I told you about, right? The title is Shallow UP Comedy. This review was published on October 5th, 1999. So I was 3 years old when the person who wrote this review on the IMDb website posted it. Yeah, it's a bloody old review. Yeah, the show was still on when they published this review. I don't recall if this review was published by a man or a woman, so I'll just refer to them as they. Okay? Alright, so let's get to it. Shallow UP comedy. TV does influence society. Just look at the surge in popularity of cappuccino shops after the shallow little piece of work debuted. Besides, real people who look as good as these people do don't have any problems. There should be a comma there. Besides, does anyone really believe that these people can afford to live in a nice Manhattan loft considering what they do for a living? NBC just loves to insult the viewer's intelligence, even if they are just around Gump's level. I know a person who makes $100,000 a year as a web designer. Bloody hell, in 1999? That's a really good salary. And lives in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan that costs $2,200 a month in rent. Jesus. Oh. I'd like to see a show called Friends with PH, where it's 6 ugly nobodies in dead-end jobs, living in a crummy neighborhood where sirens constantly wail, and someone gets mugged every week, and then the landlord jacks up the rent. Now that I would watch. Okay. So this person just hates Friends, right? We can tell it's not their favorite show. Alright. Grammar-wise, there are just a few things I would like to point out. For instance, one might ask, Jimmy, why didn't they say TV influences society rather than TV does influence society? Well, because when we want to emphasize, this is the structure we should use, right? Regardless if it's in the present or the past. Instead of, for instance, instead of saying, yesterday I paid the energy bill. And Ari asked me, babe, did you pay the energy bill? And I would say, yes, I paid it. Oh, but I didn't see it on your, I didn't receive a notification on my app. And I would emphasize it by saying, no, but I did pay it. See? That's what he's doing here, what they are doing here. TV does influence society. So it's a way to emphasize what he's saying. Let's see if there is something else grammar-wise. They used pretty much just a simple present. Right? Costs, does, loves. Yeah. Jacks up. Oh, okay. How do we know if this apostrophe D means would or had? Well, I've already taught you this in a few classes ago. A few classes ago, rather. And it has to, I think it was last class, to be honest. But it has to do with the following verb, right? If I have an apostrophe D followed by a verb in the base form, in the present, or more precisely in the base form, this would, this apostrophe D means would. Okay? Would like. But this could be any verb, right? If this apostrophe D is followed by a verb in the participle or participle, for example, liked, driven, worked, eaten, sought, this apostrophe D would mean had. Had liked. But this is the case for this review, right? I would like to see a show called Cool. Alright. Vocabulary wise, okay, there are quite a few words for us to talk about, right? First, by the way, I'm basing my comment on the questions my students have had regarding this particular review. So, surge means a fast and abrupt increase. So, a surge in popularity. It's a sudden increase in popularity. He's even talking about like cappuccino shops, like prices. Did he talk about prices? No, just a surge in popularity of cappuccino shops due to the what do we call that? The Café and Friends. Central Perk. Yeah, I remember it now. Okay. So yeah, there was indeed a surge in popularity of cafes, coffee shops, cappuccino shops after this piece of work debuted. Another word that very few people know is debuted. To debut means to be out for the first time, to be released. So when this little, quote unquote, this shallow little piece of work was released. Okay. Besides is a linking word that has to do with, or that indicates addition, right? It gives out an addition idea. Okay, so he gave a point, and then he's adding another. Fair enough. Let me see if there's anything else I would like to comment on. Besides, okay, I would never make this repetition here, like besides, and then right in the next period would I start it with the same linking word. There are many other options they could have used. For instance, they could have used furthermore. It's so difficult to write. Furthermore, They could have used moreover. Moreover. They could have used in addition, additionally, so on and so forth. Okay? But yeah, repeating this was a bit lame, in my opinion. Can afford to live in a nice Manhattan loft. What they do, considering what they do for a living. Let me erase that. What they do for a living. This means their occupation. Considering their occupation, what they do for a living. Okay. Indeed. Phoebe is a masseuse. Joey is an actor, right? But he doesn't make a lot of money. At least not in the first seasons. Or is it the other way around? I don't know. Yeah, this point is alright. Oh, but I was talking about this with one of my students. And she said that Monica's apartment was like a present from her grandma. So maybe her grandma is rich. Or maybe she got the apartment after her grandmother passed away. I'm not sure. I don't actually recall. Alright. Another word that people were a bit confused was Gump's level. I assume they are referring to Forrest Gump, right? The iconic character. I've never watched that film, so bloody hell. Sorry. I'm coughing a lot. I'm still sick. As I said in the beginning of the class. I've never watched that film, but I assume that Forrest Gump is not a brilliant person, a brilliant character, right? I think we can assume that from this comment. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're good for now, right? And then at the next page, we have dead-end jobs. What are dead-end jobs? Dead-end jobs are jobs in which we don't see a room for progression. Like, it's a type of job in which it's kind of difficult to get promoted and grow in the company. Do you know what I mean? So you're basically stuck in there in the same position for years and years. That's what a dead-end job is. A crummy neighborhood. A lot of students didn't know what crummy means. Crummy means dirty. Okay? In this case, it could be a dirty, disorganized neighborhood. Unclean neighborhood. Sirens, most of them knew what it was, but they didn't know what wail meant. A wail, it's like a high-pitched cry, right? Since it's a siren, it's like that high-pitched noise. Wee wee wee. But yeah, that's a wail. And mugged has nothing to do with this object. Okay, this is a mug, but it has nothing to do with that. When somebody gets mugged, it means that someone else put a gun or a knife to their face and they robbed that person. Okay? So to get mugged means to get robbed. Okay? And landlord, this is another confusing word for a lot of people. But if you don't own an apartment, if you just rent it, you either have a landlord, which is the man that owns the apartment you're living now, or a landlady, which is the woman who owns the apartment you're currently living in, right? For instance, I don't have a landlord. I have a landlady. Okay. And last but not least, we have jacks up, which means increases. Okay. Well, I won't comment on the review. I would just say that I don't agree with most of it. Right? There are just a few points that make sense. But yeah, like I'm a bit biased because I really like this show. I would rate it a 9, maybe 8.5 out of 10. But yeah, this one was a bit harsh. Like 1 out of 10. Wow. Okay. So guys, that's it for today. This episode was a bit shorter. As I said, I'm still a bit sick. I'm taking a lot of medication to get rid of this flu. And yeah, I would just leave one question to you, which is, do you agree with this review? So you can answer this question on the comment section down below. Okay? Just write down your opinion. What do you think of this review? If you agree with it, if you don't agree with it, and why or why not. Why do you agree with it? Why don't you agree with it? Okay? So guys, happy Easter. Today is still Good Friday, right? Tomorrow there's Holy Saturday and then Easter Sunday. But have a happy Easter. Try to remember the real meaning of Easter, because most people just care about the chocolate, right? Well, that's not the main point. And I'll see you Monday, okay? With the A1 episode. Maybe I'll make the C1 episode tomorrow, but I can't promise you that. Like if I wake up feeling better, I'll probably do it. But if not, I'll just try to recover for next week's classes. Okay? So guys, happy Easter, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.